Big time main event at middleweight. We have top 15 contenders. Derek Brunson taking on the man himself, Kevin Holland. And I have to say this at the start of the video. Kevin Holland was our male fighter of the year last year at the 2020 Fight Night Picks Award. So a slow golf clap for Kevin Holland, who really put together an insane campaign. And I mean, if you look at his 5 on in, it's amazing. And the way that he's kind of put on these fights has been amazing as well. He beats Anthony Hernandez and finishes him. He finishes Joaquin Buckley, back and forth fight. Back and forth fight with Darren Stewart, gave him the 3rd round. Yikes. Fights Charlie Ontiveros, who looked like Sideshow Bob. Dropped him to the mat.
He's the real Charlie Olives.
He hurt Charlie Ontiveros, and it was kind of gross to see. And then he fights Jacare. Jacare takes him down. I know somebody's going to throw this one into the comments. A grappler took down Kevin Holland. And if a grappler can take down Kevin Holland, the wrestler Derek Brunson can. I'll give you that. That's not a... Listen,
I won't.
Time out. Not a crazy thing to say. However, Jacare took him down, and Kevin Holland punched up like a, I don't know, like a bat out of hell. We'll make Meatloaf references. With the handkerchief. He punched him into oblivion and finished him up against the cage. And one of the craziest things, I never in a million years would have thought Kevin Holland is going to do that to a guy that I hold in such high regard as Jacare Souza. Now, does that give Kevin Holland all of Jacare's powers? No. He is a black belt in jiu-jitsu under Travis Lutter, who had one of the most amazing MMA careers, if you go back and look at it. But for Kevin Holland, what a crazy run it's been since he made his UFC debut up a weight class where he got totally dominated by Thiago Santos. The fact where Santos was like, hey, how much punishment can you take? And he's just a sucker for punishment. For Derek Brunson, you look at the 5 on in. There's 2 losses, and the big loss to me was... And again, you can't make the comp, but Jacare Souza. It was in South Carolina. Brunson was at home.
He got knocked out by a grappler.
Jacare knocked him out, and it was amazing. Then he gets knocked out by Israel Adesanya, and it happens. Well, then he knocked Elias Theodorou out of the UFC. Then he beat Ian Heinisch by decision.
Weird fight.
And then he finished the hype train of Edmund Shabazian. And listen, it's not finished yet, but Derek Brunson showed us a couple of different things. A, I'm not at Jackson Wink anymore. I'm not training at home in South Carolina. I'm training full-time with Sanford MMA. I'm going to dye my hair like Charlie Olives because it worked for him. And Derek Brunson looked good. Now, the commentary was oddly biased, if you go back and watch that fight, for Edmund Shabazian, to the fact where they would say, look at the way that Derek Brunson's shots aren't hurting Edmund Shabazian. And Shabazian has so much power to the fact that he'd throw a head kick and Brunson will go back. You see a lot of fighters do that. They'll get hit by a power shot or, you know, they'll kind of bounce off the cage, so on and so forth. Brunson did that, and credit where it's due, Shabazian does hit hard. But Derek Brunson withstood the adversity. He put on a veteran-savvy performance. He used his wrestling like we've always wanted to see him use. And at 37 years of age, this guy's seen just about everything there is in MMA. It's tough to look great against Derek Brunson unless you're a great fighter. Here's Kevin Holland's opportunity to try and do that where, again, another prospect couldn't do it the last time out. I love the fight, Matt. So what are you thinking?
This is a phenomenal fight. Now, I'm going to have to go on your Jacare points. Jacare is one of the best MMA wrestlers of all time. I know he is primarily known as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but if he can take you down, it's because his wrestling is insane. He is not a bad wrestler by any means, and his striking is also very good. He's knocked out Derek Brunson twice, once in Strikeforce, once in the UFC. So we're going to give Jacare his due. Here's the thing about this fight. I look at this fight and I compare it almost to a T of what we saw between Alexander Volkov and Alistair Overeem. And I say it for this reason. You have a tall, lanky striker who is extremely accurate against a shorter striker who does not have a great chin. I don't think Kevin Holland needs to be a powerful guy to knock out Derek Brunson. I just think he needs to get from point A to point B in somewhat of a fast way and stay efficient with his movements. Kevin Holland's pretty good at staying efficient with his strikes. He can get tired if he does have a very grappling-heavy game plan, and if you do force him to wrestle and to strike and mix it up a lot, it will wear on him. But if you go back and look at the the Joaquin Buckley fight, he pieced him up that whole entire fight and knocks him out in the 3rd round, and he does get better as that fight progresses. I understand Buckley's nowhere near the level that Derek Brunson is, but it's a nice thing to see from Kevin Holland that A, he was able to hit a guy who does have good head movement, or at least he did in that fight, but he clipped him on the way out. And the fact that he got better as the fight went on, because I know that it's been inconsistent, to say the least, with Kevin Holland's cardio, because even the Santos fight, like, yeah, he lost to Thiago Santos quite bad. He didn't have bad cardio in that fight, though, and he was able to withstand everything Santos brought at him. But then you look at the Darren Stewart fight, and he does start to tire in that fight, so it is a really weird case for Kevin Holland. Another interesting point, too, the Derek Brunson Edmund Shabazian main event was only a 3-round main event, whereas this one is going to be the full 5. And for Brunson, I've seen him in 5-round main events before, but I've never seen him in a 5-round main event. The majority of the time, either he's getting knocked out in the first round, or he's knocking his opponent out in the first round. And that's always the interesting thing with Derek Brunson. He's going to get hurt in the first round. Just some guys can put him out, and sometimes he can just get back up to people's power. Go back to Ian Heinisch fight. Ian Heinisch drops him with a head kick in the first round, and you're like, oh wow, this couldn't be any worse for Derek Brunson. He's been dropped. This happens a lot. But then Derek Brunson, the fact that he does have so much experience in the veteran savvy, like you had said, he's been in there with the best guys. Has he always beat them? No, he hasn't. But he's learned something every time he's been in there with an elite in the division. And look at some of the guys that Derek Brunson's fought. Jacare Souza, Chris Lieben, Lorenz Larkin, Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker. Like, he's been in there with some of the greatest fighters of all time, and you're going to take some losses when you do have that high level of competition. But for Derek Brunson, this is the ultimate crossroads fight, and I know that we call him a gatekeeper a lot, and he hates the term, but he is the first fighter I think of when the term gatekeeper gets brought up in MMA, because Derek Brunson, he's not elite himself, but he's very close to being elite. He does everything very well. There's no massive weaknesses in his game. He doesn't have the best chin in the world, but other than that, he's a good enough striker. He's got big power. He's a good wrestler. He's just kind of good at everything. I do think Kevin Holland's that special kind of talent, though. And again, to go back to the Volkov-Overeem fight, just his accuracy is going to get Brunson a lot of trouble, because I do think we're going to see a more wrestling-heavy Brunson in this fight. I do think at this stage of his career, he at least learned in that Shabazian fight, okay, if I'm going to be fighting these younger, up-and-coming guys, I can't just fight a kickboxing fighter. I just can't have a wrestling fight. I have to fight these guys in MMA fights. And we saw that in the Shabazian fight, where as Shabazian started to wilt from the pressure, Brunson incorporated a lot more wrestling. I think he's going to do that with Holland, but the difference is, I think Holland's going to be able to crack him at some point in the fight. I do think he's going to be able to put him down. But the interesting thing is, I don't know if Kevin Holland, A, is going to jump for a submission once he gets into the ground, or B, go for ground and pound. I really like that from Kevin Holland, because if he can hurt Derek Brunson, I don't expect him to tire himself out going for a ground and pound finish. He is so adept on the ground that if he is able to get on top of Brunson, I'm not saying he's going to out-wrestle Brunson. I think that's his worst path to victory. But if he can drop Derek Brunson and get on top of him, I think Brunson's going to be in a world of trouble. And I really like the top pressure and overall ground game from Kevin Holland.
You look at the finish losses for Derek Brunson. Yoel Romero, Jacare Souza with Strike Force, Robert Whittaker, Jacare again, Israel Adesanya. I mean, he's been finished time and time again. He's only lost by decision to who? Kendall Grove, way back, Anderson Silva, and that's it. So he has been finished in the past by strikes. That's the worrisome thing with Derek Brunson. For Kevin Holland, you look at some of the losses. He loses to Brendan Allen, he gets submitted. He loses to Thiago Santos by decision, had no business. Lost by decision to Curtis Millender, lost to Rafael Lovato Jr. by submission. The guy went undefeated, and he was a Bellator champ, and he beat Gegard Mousasi by decision. Rafael's good. So you look at the losses for Kevin Holland. Maybe you don't love them. I certainly don't love a lot of the losses that are on that record either, but they come with the territory. You look at the wins. Darren Stewart, Buckley, Ontiveros, yikes. Jacare, he's supposed to fight Jack Hermanson. He got Jacare, so on and so forth. John Phillips, he finishes him. I just worry for Kevin Holland. There's 2 fights that worry me. He beat Darren Stewart, but it was too close of a fight. It was a split decision win. He definitely lost the third. I gave him rounds 1 and 2. And I talked about that in the Darren Stewart fight against Eric Anders. Listen, Stewart can rally late, and you had to worry about that against Eric Anders until an illegal knee. So in the fight for Holland against Stewart, I worry. I also worry about the fight against Brendan Allen, because he cracked him early, he got on top, he had him bloody, and then he gets submitted and he made a mistake. Now I understand, he's progressed from late 2019 until early 2021, as any young fighter will. Derek Brunson's the type of guy that doesn't go away. I know he's older, but I don't necessarily worry about his cardio.
He does go away. That's all of his losses.
Well, he gets finished, yeah. But, well, not all of his losses. But with Derek Brunson, 100% takedown defense. And he came into the UFC against Chris Lieben way back at UFC 155, Dos Santos Velasquez 2 in 2012. He's fought very good fighters. Machida, he beat. He beat Uriah Hall. Like,
that was a nice knockout, too.
Beat Sam Alvey. Like, he's faced a very high level of competition the whole way up. Kevin Holland was our fighter of the year last year. It's crazy to see these 2 guys fight because, hey, can Derek Brunson end another hype train? Well, Matt.
Hashtag one last run, Derek Brunson.
Fight Night picks in the community tab on YouTube. 1,500 total votes. 80% going with your 10th ranked fighter in Kevin Holland, 20% going with Derek Brunson. If we look at the odds, Brunson actually opened as the favorite at a minus 120. He's a plus 141 underdog now. For Holland to open a plus 100, now at a minus 172. So can Brunson, A, put a pressure on, but not enough where he gets caught? Can he wrestle, but not enough to get caught in some of those slippery submissions that Kevin Holland has? Or can Holland just go out there, stick and move, land a nice, maybe even a power jab that drops Brunson, get on top and hammer away?
Don't think he's going to beat him with a power jab. That's one of the few things I can guarantee. Here's the thing for Derek Brunson. Kevin Holland does one thing, and I'm going to call it the Bobby Green shoulder roll. I know other fighters do it, but he does like to roll a lot, especially when he's in a southpaw position. It leaves his chin open to overhand left, which is Derek Brunson's best strike. Just something to watch out for. Little X factor. I still think Kevin Holland should be able to get the win on this. I won't discredit the power Brunson has, and I think if he catches Holland clean, especially on the feet, he will put him down. I just like the accuracy from Holland. I think he can, like I said, get from point A to point B, and the chin of Brunson is somewhat questionable, whereas I've seen Kevin Holland eat big shots and not really react to them. So I like the durability of Holland, and I do think he's going to be a guy who might not get to the title shot. I know he's had a little bit of beef with Adesanya. They've gone back and forth. Maybe he never gets to that point, but I do think he'll be good enough to get past Derek Brunson, and at least we'll see Kevin Holland in there with some other elite guys. Like Kevin Holland versus Darren Till is a fun fight. Versus Marvin Vettori is a fun fight. Jack Hermanson, like those are the names I would really like to see Kevin Holland fight consistently instead of the Charlie Ontiveroses of the world. So hopefully Kevin Holland, if he is able to get this win, does get one of those big names in the division next.
He was supposed to get Mahmoud Muradov, and he ends up with Charlie Ontiveros. He's supposed to get Jack Hermanson. He waits a little bit, and then he gets Jacare Souza. And now, full camp for Derek Brunson. Can Derek Brunson solve his chin issues? Well, you can't really solve those. And that's one of those things that I worry about. So again, yes, I agree. I'm going with Kevin Holland in this fight. Now, here's the X factor. I wouldn't put any of my cheddar on it. I'm going to wait until the first round's over. If Brunson pushes a pace on Holland and keeps him down and he's able to get on top of him in the first round, I'm going Brunson hot and heavy after the first round. Now, I think Holland could obviously finish from round 1, round 2. I'm interested to see this fight go further, because I think the further that it goes, the more it favors Brunson, the older fighter. So, I'm going to go with the current favorite in Kevin Holland right now, but this is an awesome fight, and Brunson has many ways to win here.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's always fun when you have Derek Brunson in there with a prospect. I know it's a story that we've seen kind of played out 100 times at this point, but it's always going to be a fun fight no matter what, because Derek Brunson, you hate to say he fights the level of competition, but he does. Like, he was beating Yoel Romero until he wasn't, and he was doing well against Robert Whittaker until he wasn't. So I think this could be a really fun main event this weekend.
Both of us going with Kevin Holland. Really looking forward to it. It should be a great card. We're going to have some awesome new content coming out with Fight Night picks. This week in MMA, the interviews with JHK. All sorts of great stuff on the website as well. FightNightPicks.com. Promo code FNP25 to get 25% off your order from the store. You can get some awesome merch over there as well. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks during the week, because of course, as fights are added or canceled, we will have those updates here on the channel. All you have to do, subscribe, toss the like. You can find us Fight Night Picks on Instagram, Twitter, at Craig Allen FNP, and at Matt Allen FNP as well. So enjoy Fight Week. Really looking forward to this card, Matt. As we always say with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.